What's up everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the unit showcase. So we're going to kick things off with Says here. I've got him built an attack crit set. This is actually a set that Luna typically has, to be honest with you. So it's speed on boots because it's more tuned towards the PvP side of things. Says as a unit, he was my second 5-star, I guess if you can call it that, which was in the summons where they give you the 10 and you get to roll it 10 times. So I got him. So it was Haste and Says I started my account off with, which is pretty decent. Really good for adventure. So if you're a newer player and you have a Says, great, he will get you through adventure. Basically, it will get you through both normal and world difficulty. He drops off a little bit in the mid game where his damage starts to lack because units aren't below 50% health. You know, you go to the higher Abyss levels, it takes a while for bosses to get below 50%. But then he does pick up again because he's actually a pretty decent PvP unit, both for Arena, because his S3, if it's killing a target, it's doing huge splash damage that scales off of his attack. So you could run attack on boots to get even more value out of that. But remember, attack on boots is no good if the unit never moves, right? So a dead DPS is no DPS. So I like Says here. I put Wind Rider on him, and I actually quite like this, especially in Guild Wars, which is where I've been using him lately, because he can snipe some of his S3 and then just hide. So if they're using like a double or a triple DPS team, I can run kind of 2 support and then Says as my only DPS. So as a DPS, he does fall off a little mid-game, picks a little bit up late game if you use him for specific things. I actually use him for Wyvern 11 as well, purely because I don't have a Kais or something like that. So Luna Says are my DPS there, and they work perfectly fine, so they're good there. So I give him about a 4.3 out of 5. Good unit. Good. You won't be sad to have him. I've even skilled up quite a lot of his stuff here. So this is on a 5-turn cooldown. It's pretty good stuff. Moving on to Iseria, one of my first 5 stars that I pulled at least early on with the account. You can see that I've reduced her cooldown on her 2 abilities here. Absolutely amazing unit. If you haven't Iseria, like, you were quids in, you were really happy. So I've built mine fast, or reasonably fast at least, at 212. She's normally my primary armor breaker in PvP, so I'd run like Shadow Rose, Iseria, X, DPS like Luna, Carmiel, Says, whatever. But because she's built so fast, I can also run her with just like fast teams like Iseria, Wanderer, Silk, Sid. That team works out perfectly, for example. I've got Rosa Hagana as my artifact on her. I like this. I like her having more dual chance because she obviously has the armor break on her S1, which is super useful. Basically, every ability on this unit has an armor break because the S2 is just a reset anyway, which is going to go over to the S3 or to the S1, which is an armor break. The S3 is what makes her obviously godly because there's just so many things packed on one ability. It armor breaks, it blocks buffs, it strips. It's just absolutely an incredible move, especially for Guild Wars where there's only 3 targets and not 4, so you don't need as much AoE armor break, for example. So yeah, I've still got a lot of stats to gain on her. Here I've just built her some sort of like speed attacky stuff. Mainly speed is what the key for Iseria. I give her, for what she does, as like a utility DPS, because she's not going to do huge damage. She can do alright damage, but not huge. For a utility DPS, I give her like a 4.5. She's that good. The S3 is just insane. She can be used in a lot of PvE as well, if you wanted to. Like early Golem 10, for example. She's perfect there. Buff block, strip, and defense break on one unit is like one of the best things you could have for a Golem. So really good. She'll get you through adventure because she's got reset, which does obviously funny things with units that have really strong S3s that have long cooldowns. You just reset it. So absolutely amazing unit, especially having that reset as well is one of the only units in the game with that. I think Rimmer maybe is the other one, but that's only a 3-turn cooldown, so nothing too crazy. So for what she does, 4.5 out of 5. Really strong unit. Assassin Cartuja, so an amazing unit to have. Some people believe that he is almost as good as ML Ken. I believe that is also true to a certain extent. They do what they want to do very well, but they do their jobs differently in a certain aspect. So typically you always see him built with a lifesteal set, and I think lifesteal is probably the way to go, to be honest here. I don't think this is the best artifact for him to have at all. Like, I guess it's alright, health, attack and speed increases. Like, it's not terrible to have, and he's evading, so maybe it's okay, but I did have a Sigurd Scythe on him. That seemed to work pretty well as well, but this kind of works out fine at the moment. Built him just straight attack, obviously, with the lifesteal set, and managed to get a decent amount of crit rate on him, so he can hit reasonably hard and just heal himself. Obviously, the S3 is what makes this unit absolutely broken. It has defense break and stun on 1 turn, and it doesn't really have no elemental disadvantage because he's dark, and this doesn't have like a percentage, so it's 100% essentially, minus the 15% innate. Obviously, evasion is absolutely insane. AoE evasion is just so much damage reduction. It's causing them to miss their debuffs. It's causing them to miss crits as well. So, absolutely, really, really great unit. I used it originally, like back in the day, for like Wyvern 10s. This was before Hunt 11s were in the game and things like that. So like, he could tank on Wyvern 10. He could get you through all adventures because of the evasion. He can cheese certain Abyss levels. Really good in Guild Wars because of the S3, obviously. It actually has quite a high base speed. I don't ever particularly build my Assassin Cartuja as fast, but 134 with not even trying to put speed on him is really good. You could easily get this unit to be way faster if you built him with a speed set, which is viable. So yeah, good unit there. Really, really like this unit. I think for what he does and what he's providing and like the rarity of the things that he's providing, he's like a 4.7 out of 5 for what you want to do. He really is that good, basically. Wanderer Silk. So, I don't really, if I ever watch any Epic 7 content, and I don't watch that much, but if I do, I hardly ever see Wanderer Silks. It's either people don't have them or whatever, but I think this unit is absolutely amazing for what she is. So, I built her speedy. She's actually not quite as fast as I want, but there's an obvious upgrade here. If these just go to 85, so they'd be fine. She would be over 190, and that would be totally fine then. She can do reasonable damage. She is more of a sub-DPS kind of in the Iseria line, but she does a little bit more than Iseria. But basically, like Iseria again, this ability is just packing so much in, and for both PvE and PvP, reducing someone's readiness to 0% is really insane, basically. It might as well be a stun, almost. So, absolutely great unit. Silence is also really strong as well, so by the time they are moving again, they're not even doing anything. And an unhealable on the top. This ability here is dropping their combat readiness again, and because you're using it in PvP most likely, they're always going to have a debuff on them, so it's going to go twice 100% of the time, which is really, really strong. And this one just a bleed just for effect. Rosa Hagana on her, I don't think that's probably the best thing to have on her, to be honest. I'm not sure what the best artifact would be, because you're only increasing like a bleed, like whatever. I mean, it can be okay, I suppose, just to get a bit of extra damage. In Guild Wars, which is where I use her mostly, it is good because any bit of extra damage is always good. So, and it's normally going to crit, and it's going to take the extra 30% attack. So, for what she does, for how often you see her, she's like a 3.9. Is that a bit low? No, I think that's fair. A 3.9 out of 5. A really good unit. Niche uses, but when you do use her in the niche, she's very, very, very strong. So do not be sad about having one of the, and feel free to chuck your normal silks into her, because having AoE crit rate for everyone else is a very, very strong ability to have. Now moving on to Shadow Rose. Well, I mean, most people know about Shadow Rose, so mine's 220. I could actually get her faster if I wanted to. I've just spread my speed gear out a bit. I could probably get her to 230, to be honest, because I have some pretty nutty chest piece that she's not using. But, I mean, there's not much to say. She's the best combat readiness booster in the game, mainly because she reduces the enemy combat readiness. So, I mean, if she didn't do that, if she didn't push back, she'd still be strong, but she'd be like Judith, who is like Bernard from Summoner's War. For anyone who's played that, that's what Judith is, Bernard, basically. But the fact that she pushes back just means that you don't even really have to speed sync any of your units. You can have your attackers with attack % on boots, which just lets them hit so much harder, because as long as they're not, like, insanely slow, then you're definitely not going to be cut. Then she's got the strip there and the decreased fence break, and then she's got the decreased fence break there when something's 100% health. So a great unit. You can use her in basically all PvE. I use her in raids. I use her in the A11. I use her in, you can use her in B11 if you wanted to. I've used her in Golem 11. In fact, I've used her in Wyvern 11. Like, she can literally be used everywhere because she doesn't care. You can chuck an Aureus on her because she's the knight, so she can soak up a bit of damage. Pretty easy unit to build. You just want speed and health, right? Like, anything else is a bonus, but speed and health, and she can be great there. Normally, it wouldn't be great to, like, this ring is such a good attack ring, but the fact that it rolled 11 speed, like, she can just have it. And as long as she's got a speed set, then you can just have broken, as long as it's the fastest stuff that you have. So, yeah, for what she does, like, for what her specific role is, she has to be, like, a 4.8 out of 5, basically. Like, she's almost perfect for what she does. She is almost perfect for what she does. Angelica, arguably one of the most versatile healers in the game. She can basically, if you get her early in your progression, she pretty much unlocks all PvE content for you. I like to build my Angelica fast. She's still not as fast as I want her. I want her to be about 200 speed, but she's the lowest base unit speed in the game, so getting 189 is not too bad to start off with. Because she's pretty easy to build otherwise, it's just speed and health. At this health, she can struggle tanking Wyvern 11. But if I do Wyvern 11 and I'm going to do Wyvern for the whole week, then I'll just put a HP set on her and then switch out the boots for when I do PvP. I've built her fast because I mainly use her for PvP and I want her to get her immunity up. I put a rod on her. Arguably, that's probably not the best thing, and if you want to use her for Wyvern 11, then you want to probably use the 3-star artifact, that Pathetic Candlestick, because every time she gets hit, she reduces her cooldown, so she's just constantly healing, constantly putting barriers, constantly immunity, and that makes her so strong. So because she has such low turns here, and I've got this, 4 turns and then 2 turns, it's just an insane amount of healing. S1 does a stun, which is just like a little bit of flavour, I think. But yeah, really, really strong unit. You don't have to build her fast at all. If you don't have these sort of items, then you can definitely build her just like HP defense or HP, something like that if you want to. And just all HP % on everything, because everything does scale off of her health. So it's not terrible to build her like slow and tanky, but just make sure you're using her in the right setups where slow and tanky works, essentially. Lastly then, we'll finish off with the other healer for this. She hasn't got a head, but never mind. So I don't use Achates too much anymore, purely because Angelica is simply better in a lot of PvE content. Oh, I have to rate Angelica right. For a healer, she's like one of the best, so she's like a 4.3 out of 5. So Achates, I have also put on the Shimadra staff, which I actually quite like with her, because she's got her invulnerability as a single target, so it's nice to have that be really big. She is awesome to have an AoE Dispel. This is absolutely great, and it's really, really good for some of the raids. Like, you have that one of the side bosses, or that does all those dots all the time. She just mitigates that entire fight, right? Really useful. You can definitely use her for adventure if you're a newer player. She definitely has uses in PvP as well as just a defender. Now, I have Ludwig, so actually she was my very first Ludwig enabler, though the problem is she's typically built slow, and even though Ludwig's slow, it's unlikely he's going to be slower than the Achates, so it kind of goes out of whack. Here I just built her typical HP sets. Because she scales off healing, I just want all of her scales off health. I just want all of her healing to do as much as possible. So, pretty good healer. She's definitely not the best healer. Having fire affiliation as a healer, is that good or bad? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to think. There's definitely more water DPS units, right? Like, you've got the Kaises, the Lunas, the Cesars and stuff, so you're not going to see her as much, that's for sure. But I guess she's good against the Bologna Vildred type teams. If you wanted someone to be able to heal after they do damage, then she's okay. So, for what she does, I think like a 3.8 out of 5 is pretty strong for Achates there. Definitely wouldn't be upset to have her. So, that will be the conclusion to our part 2. We'll do our next units after, and we'll talk about our side projects, so I won't talk about random stuff that I don't use anymore. We'll just skip to all the good stuff that has gear, etc. And I hope you look forward to that one. Peace.